Well, let's see if we can speak now to Israeli journalist Amir Oren. Thank you very much for joining us again. What are the signs? Are there any signs yet at all of a ground invasion force amassing?
Good morning. And so apparently the Israeli war cabinet had to wait until after the visits of Secretary of State Blinken and Secretary of Defense Austin, who have been to Israel to lay the ground rules for the ground invasion and also for the aerial bombardment. Because while there is a total support of Israel's justification in acting against Hamas following the horrific massacres of last Saturday, there is some controversy regarding the methods and the intended targets of the operation. So rather than a swift response by Israel on the ground too, it has been very, very slow. You all remember the Six-Day War of 1967. So now the Hamas has had a 6-day, now 7-day war inside Israel without the Israeli Defense Forces crossing over into Gaza. Apparently, this is going to change soon. And today, this morning, the IDF has announced that the population in northern Gaza will have an additional 6 hours from an hour from now, 10 a.m. Gaza time, to 16 hours Gaza time along 2 corridors to flee from the north to the central area of Gaza and south. And as you said, the UN and other international bodies resent it, as do Arab governments across the region.
It's interesting, though, isn't it, that implies, I mean, there is pressure growing, I mean, not only from Arab communities, but also our Prime Minister here saying, you know, civilian safety is paramount. Clearly, despite the absolute anger and understandable anger of the Israeli government and Israeli people, they are listening to some of that pressure.
So, you know, in earlier campaigns, especially in Lebanon, there was a simplistic notion in Israel that relocating, moving populations from the border area or from where Hezbollah and now Hamas have come.
What a shame. Yes, our apologies. I must say, when you look at some of the pictures we've been showing of the utter devastation there, you wonder if there is anyone left there, how they actually get anywhere. There are roads are blocked just by crumbling buildings.
But he talked about 2 corridors, didn't he?
Yes. That's the first we've really heard of 2 corridors.
Well, it is. But of course, what is the concern is the fact there are tunnels, caves, all the rest of it that are built that Hamas hides in, and that's what they're trying to get to. I think Amir is back.
Good.
Yes.
Do go on, Amir. I mean, you were telling us about.
Yeah, we were cut off. Now, the notion now is not to put pressure on government so that they will put pressure on the terrorist organization, be it Hezbollah or Hamas, to stop. Now, it's to clear the way, to take the civilians out of the way so that they will not be hurt. But obviously, they are being hurt by being displaced, if not by being there when the tanks roll in. And Hamas, of course, doesn't want them to clear the way. So they are between a rock and a hard place.
Yes, it's quite literally that case, isn't it? And I can imagine that so many don't know what to do. Apparently, in the north of Gaza there is the main hospital, and that's full of patients who can't move.
Yes, the problem is Hamas has placed some of its assets, maybe even the hostages, under the hospital, in underground bunkers and underground floors. In order to get to Hamas, one must get to the hospital, and better for the patients to be moved. Now, of course, it's very difficult and life-threatening, but what can one do?
I suppose that's the crux of all of this, isn't it? And obviously we have people watching who view this from all angles, Amir, but the fact that Hamas uses the population they say they are working for and want to protect as human shields is a key part of this problem, isn't it, if there are going to be more civilian casualties?
Yes, civilian casualties will be the victims of this operation, regardless of who is right and who is not. And obviously, Israel is right, but it has to choose the right method too, not only to have a right cause.
What of you yourself? I mean, where you are now, is it possible at all to sleep during the night? Is it very noisy? Is it very frightening?
No, it's not very frightening in Tel Aviv. While Hamas has targeted the Tel Aviv area, including the vicinity and Ben Gurion Airport, and there are sirens going off twice or 3-4 times during the day, the population knows that it's the luck of the draw. And the Iron Dome system provides excellent, though not complete, protection. So if one knows how to behave properly and go to a safe room or a shelter, usually it comes out all right, even if buildings are being damaged.
Yes, but even with that in mind, we were talking to a former Israeli member of parliament in the last hour, and as she was saying, the fact that, I know you're aware of it anyway, but this just really emphasises how you are surrounded on all sides by people who do not want Israel to exist. And I just wonder how that plays into the psyche in the wake of what we saw last Saturday.
Yes, it does play. Well, we are not totally enveloped by enemies. Egypt and Jordan have peace with us. Yes, we do have problems with Hezbollah in Lebanon and with Syria and Iran and Hamas, but we can strive for peace. There is some future, hopefully, ahead of us, and all sides in the Middle East, all parties, have to go for a grand compromise. Now, you can't compromise with a religious, fanatic organization like Hamas or Hezbollah.
Okay.
Sadly, we've lost Amir again.
But I tell you what, he made some very good points. This is Gaza City at the moment, where you hardly dare say it looks comparatively peaceful. We can't see anything happening there at the moment. But of course, what must it be like, knowing that this invasion is coming?
It is coming, yes.
And what do the innocents do?
It will be lethal too. Yeah.
Oh, it will.
And there are people in there who probably can't get out, or a lot of people in there who don't want to get out. They don't want to leave their homes. They won't feel that they should. And of course, Hamas is also trying to persuade them not to. But anyway, there you are. That's Gaza City at the moment.
I tell you what, and it's so difficult to talk about these things. But when we were talking to the former member of parliament in the last hour, and she was making reflections on, what happened in Germany, in Nazi Germany, and having to sort of wipe out, and then that country reforming itself to what it is today. And obviously...
Talked about reprogramming people's attitudes.
Yeah, it was
which is an unfortunate word, I think. Most of us don't like that word, but I think we all know what she means.
But obviously we supported all of that, but necessary in that were civilian casualties.
Well, you can't have war without.
You can't have war without. And so as much as and important as it is to try to minimise civilian casualties, there is an inevitability about this. And whereas I feel dreadfully sad about that, Hamas must have known that.
Yes.
They must have known what they were bringing on their own people when they
But they've been planning this for quite some time. I mean, there is evidence that they may well have been planning this for about 2 years. which is, again, extraordinary that the Israeli information people, what do I mean, intelligence services, didn't seem to know and apparently were caught unawares.